Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is a part of Zenphi Automation Story Series. My name is Rosita. I'm a product marketing manager at Zenphi, and I'm going to moderate this event. And for this webinar, we have a very special host, Vahid Taslimi, CEO at Zenphi. He will be joining us in a second. And he will be guiding us through all the ins and outs of automating Google Workspace user management. But before we begin, I just wanted to quickly highlight a few housekeeping items. So first of all, this session is being recorded and we'll send out the recording within a couple of days after the webinar. And secondly, we'll have time for a Q&A session with Vahid at the end of the webinar. But if you have a question and need an immediate response, just use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen during the webinar, and I'll be there to answer any questions you have. With that, let's give a warm welcome to Vahid, who will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Rosita. Hello, everyone. My name is Vahid. I'm here part of Team Zenphi, and thank you very much for joining me today and giving me opportunity to show you some of the Zenphi's capabilities. Today, we're going to talk about Google Workspace user management, or automating all those tasks around user management in Google Workspace. So let's get started. So the first question is that why should you consider automating Google Workspace admin tasks at all? I'm 100% positive you all have got the answer for this one, but if I were to summarize it, is that we understand you. Majority of us come from the similar background. We've been doing IT, and we understand the pain and pain points in the IT teams. So normally what happens with the IT, you've got the strategic project to roll out across the company, but at the same time, there's a lot of requests coming in from multiple teams, whether it's your HR, your finance, to do bits and pieces. Those tasks are like creating a Google group for someone, adding someone to a Google workspace, or offboarding a contractor, and especially in the companies who've got a lot of contractors turnover. Just those small bits and pieces, they add up. Being in IT, of course, you want to make things a lot more efficient. So the natural evolution of it is that putting a ticketing system in place to control the flow of the work requests coming through. But at the end of the day, you still need to do the work, do the actual work, whether it's deleting a user or archiving a user from Google Workspace, or creating a Google group, or updating an email address across the company based on marketing requests. So you still need to go and do all the tasks. Again, the evolution of it would be you can resort back to scripting tools like GAM or Google Apps Script or other scripting tools to automate some of these tasks. But then you need to carve out the time to write the script, deploy it, maintain, and also there's yet another thing to maintain. So anyway, no matter how you look at it, there's more work for IT to do. The other option is that to use a point solution. These are the add-ons out of the shelf solutions. They're pretty good, however, they come with certain limitations. They're normally not flexible enough to align with your way of working. So you end up having to change the way you work, or some part of the processes to align with those ones, which over the time potentially can backfire. And what we understand at Zenphi is that, what we've seen across our customers, and based on our experience, the work done in IT is normally part of the bigger process. So if you zoom out on all this processing, there's a reason you add a user to Google Workspace, or you update a license, or you remove one, is because probably someone was added to your HR system. So the integration between third-party systems is pretty important, so that you can automate the process end to end. But that's also another limitation when you go with the point solutions. Also, part of it, as the bigger you get, the more logic you want to embed in your process automation. So again, another limitation with the point solutions. Now, I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Zenphi if you're not already familiar with Zenphi. Zenphi is a no-code process automation platform. It's built on Google for Google. It's got native integration with all Google services like Sheets and Docs and Gmail. But it doesn't end there. It's got a lot of integration with other third-party solutions which are commonly used across organizations. It's really easy to use and it's extremely powerful. It enables you to automate your processes, as you're going to see, in matter of hours. These processes can be simple processes like generating simple document all the way to really complex processes like contract management system or even a ticketing system. You can implement your own ticketing system on top of Zenphi. You don't have to, but you can. The beauty of Zenphi is that you can connect it with your existing system and leverage your existing investments. For example, if you've got Jira Service Desk as a ticketing system, you can easily integrate Zenphi there to do the actual automation work for you. So close the last mile of automation. So in terms of the Google Workspace administration tasks, Zenphi offers quite a few things out of the box. You've got quite a few functionality around Google Workspace users management. These are all the things you do as part of onboarding and offboarding users, archiving users, resetting someone's password or updating recovery email address, you name it. You can all do it with Zenphi with just a few configurations and drag and drop and configurations. You can even manage your Google Vault data. You can use Zenphi to get an export of the Vault data of a user or even export the data to a cold storage to free up the Vault license so that it reduces your cost drastically. Managing Google Groups, managing workspace licenses, assigning, reassigning licenses, and centrally managing Gmail settings, whether it's updating the email signatures of the certain organizational unit or delegating emails or creating a command labels for all the sales staff. You can do it all with Zenphi. You'll also manage calendar settings. There's a ton more you can do, but these are some of the things you can do in the context of the Google Workspace administration. Today's focus is going to be on user and license management activities in Google Workspace and how you can automate them, how you can leverage Zenphi to automate those tasks. So without further ado, I just want to jump in straight into demo and let's get it started. Okay, let's jump straight into it. The first demo I'm going to have for you today is around enabling your employees to send requests for you to create Google Workspace group. The difference is you actually don't go and create it, you delegate that to Zenphi. You only will do the approval tasks for it. For this one, I'm going to use one of the out-of-the-box templates that we've got, and so I can show you how to use templates as well. So let's get started. Here, I'm going to be using this template. Click on Use Templates. And as you can see here, we've got quite a few functionalities available in this template. This is the one I'm interested in. To use a template, you just click on Use this template. There's a little bit of configuration required to make sure this is up and running when you create it. I'm going to give it a name, Webinar-Google Workspace. And here you need to select the connections required in this template. If you have a connection, you can select it from here. If you don't have one, don't worry, you just click on the plus button here and you create a connection by authorizing the user. I just want to remind you that you can authorize a different user than the one who is currently logged in into Zenphi in case the other user would have different access level. Let me quickly configure the rest of them. I select this one and this one. And here at the bottom of the template, you see Zenphi is asking you to point it to a folder in your Google Drive, where you want any resources used in this template to be stored in that folder. So like these are the like Google Sheet, Google Docs, etc. If any, all I need to do is use this template. Okay, and as you can see, the template is up and running. The one we'll be looking into today is this one, create a new Google group. Let me go straight into it, into the designer. I hope you're already familiar with all the constructs of Zenphi, the trigger, the action. If you're not, I recommend going back and watching one of our tutorials or other webinars that we've got. Now, this one, the idea is that we enable employees to send a request to create a Google group for them using a Zenphi form. But it doesn't have to be Zenphi form. It can be Google form. It can be type form. It can be your Jira ticket initiating this. It could be basically any other system that you already have got in place. You can even monitor an inbox, and once you qualify an email as a request to create a Google group, you can extract information from the email and then continue. Let me quickly show you the form that we've created. Created this simple form that employees can submit, give it a name and the owners and the members. The only thing is that we've made sure to turn on requires authentication, so we know actually who's submitting the form. I'm gonna copy the URL of this form, and what's gonna happen here is the first thing we do is gonna be using this action called a lookup user information. It goes to your Google directory and looks up the information of the initiator is the person who submitted the form, so that we can have all this information around the first name, last name, etc. The next step is to send an approval task to IT or the right person in your organization. Let me show you this. This is what we call a task, the way to send the data to be reviewed and also collect data. As you can see, we've got all those information in there. We pre-populating the information, the fields with the information which we have received from the form which got submitted. That the person reviewing this form can change it for sure. We've got a decision, approve or reject. Now let me cancel it. Now, one thing I want to remind you before, when you're using this template, make sure, this is by default gets assigned to the initiator. Again, the person who's submitting the form. Normally that's not the case. You want to assign it to an email address. I'm just going to assign it to this person. Actually, I'm going to take a detour here. I'm going to look up that person's manager. Look up manager. So I'm assigning it to the manager. So I'm going to go here and say, go to my directory. Look up the manager of the person who submitted the form, initiate the email address, and I just want to domain public view. And here, I'm gonna say, go and assign a task to the manager. I'll look up manager and get the primary email address. So to remove confusion, I say get manager's approval, because in our organization, for example, we get the manager approval. So in here, we get notified. Now, let me publish the flow and do a run of the flow, and then we walk you through it. So to run the flow, I'm going to use this other user called who is signed in. I'll copy paste form here. And remember, this form, you can embed it in your portal or you can embed it in your Zenphi space, so users can come there and send a request as well. So I'm going to create a group called salesdemo.zenphi.com. Sales group, just for the demo. And then for the group owner, I'm going to use the same user as the owner. So I want to be the owner. And for the group member, I say go and add Audrey, demo.zenphi.com, and also Vahid at demo. Now all I need to do is press submit. I press submit here. Let me close this form. Go back to Audrey's account. So what's going to happen? It's going to start flowing through these actions. Look up the manager, and it's going to assign a task to the manager. In this case, Audrey is the manager of call, so Audrey would get an email. As you can see, the email has just arrived. And I'm going to open the task form to respond to it. You see, this is a form task form we designed. And you as a reviewer have got the option to also, we gave you the option to change, instead of sales group, sales team, we want to call it sales team. And I'm happy with the rest of information. I'm just going to go and say approve. I press submit. I'm going to close this. I'm going to archive this. Let me go back to here. So what's going to happen here? We check in if it was approved by simply
go in and change what was the value of the decision control. Was it approved? If yes, it follows through this true branch. Otherwise, it goes through the false branch, gets the requester gets notified, and we terminate it. If it's yes, it comes here. We've used create group action, and which is simple. It's a very simple action. Goes and creates a group. Then we add the owners for that group, and also we go ahead add the members of the group. And finally, we go and notify the requester saying that your group has been created. So this person has already received an email saying that, hi Carl, the group you requested is already ready. And then if I go back to this other user who's got admin rights, if I refresh this, you can see the group is created and it's called sales team because as a reviewer, I changed sales group to sales team. And then it's got 3 members as I've indicated. So as you can see, it's a very simple flow, but quite effective. It can free you up from a lot of like a mundane work, just going and creating the groups. And you can do the same for adding members to group if someone has got a request, to be added to a group, or removing someone from the group, etc., etc. Again, I want to highlight this one. In our case, we started from using a Zenphi form, but you can start it from your whatever ticketing system you've got, whatever even is the HR system or any other system. Basically, you can start this flow. I'm going to show you maybe in the offboarding use case how to use the HTTP API as well. So the next use case I want to show you is a scenario where you want to create a list of licenses from your Google Workspace, and then for each one of those licenses, see if the user associated with that license has been active or not, and based on that, perform a few other tasks. Now, this one we're gonna go and create from scratch. So I'm gonna go and create a new flow. This one, say I want to run it on a schedule, say every month. So the trigger is going to be timer trigger, as you can see. I quickly configure the trigger saying I go and run it from today, 11 a.m. Basically run it every 1 day. So what I want to do first thing, I want to go and get a list of licenses, my Google Workspace account. So I drag and drop this action, list licenses, and I start configuring the action. Give it a connection. I need to get a customer ID for this action. The way you get the customer ID is by logging into your Google Workspace account. Go to your account setting, and up here you've got customer ID. So I'm gonna copy this customer ID, bring it back here, and it's asking me which product ID you queried the license for. And you can get a list of Google's product ID by clicking on that link at the bottom. I'm interested in Google Apps. I copy this one, paste it here. And also you can limit the SKU as well. You can get it from the same place. Now this one, what it's going to give me is a list of licenses assigned using my account basically, and the associated associated user ID. Now here I could go and simply just dump the list of licenses to a Google Sheet. You can add multiple rows to Sheet. You can start configuring it and add those values to Google Sheet and send the sheet to review. But that's not what I want to show you today. What I want to show you is for each one of those licenses, I want to establish if the user has been active or not. So for that, I use it for each item. Let me start configuring for each license. And then I said, go and start looking into these licenses. The next thing to do is to go ahead and use list activities action. Now this action enables you to query any activities for the user in a selected time period. Again, so it's up to you how you define a user as an active user. In our case, I'm going to say if the user have had a successful login in the last 30 days or 10 days. But you can say if the user has created any document in Google Drive in the last 3 months, it's been an active user. Otherwise, it's been an inactive user. It's totally up to you how you wanna what works for you and your organization. Now, application name, I'm gonna go and get the application name from here. Again, referring to the Google documentation. I'm interested in the login application. You can, as you can see, you can query all these applications. And the event I'm interested in, because I want to know if the user has successfully logged in, the event I'm interested in is something called successful login, if I remember correctly. Oh, okay. So first I need to go and say look for login. I click on login. And down here, if I remember, successful login, that's the one I'm interested in. And I just copy this, paste it here. So just to recap, I'm going to get rid of all the extra space. Just to recap, I'm going to my directory, audit, and saying that give me all check if the user has had a successful login. And I want to say in the last, say, 10 days. Now, for that, because this is going to run on a schedule, I need to dynamically calculate the 10 days. I come here first and I do the current date and time. I get a current date and time, and then I want to add minus 10 days to current date time, so we can go to the action and say if the user has had any successful login in the last 10 days. So I go here and say minus 10. I just give it a name, minus 10 days. Now here, I use it in this action, start time, last minus 10 days, the result. You can give it a date range and you can filter it based on different criteria as well. Least successful login. Okay, so, and the next thing I want to know if actually the user has had any successful login or as the user has been active. Successful login. And I start configuring it. I'm going to go and say number of activities, basically, if it's greater than 0. So at least one successful login the user has had. So if it's true, it goes to this branch. If it's false, it goes to this branch. Now we have to decide if the user hasn't been successful, what it is that we want to do. As I said, we've got multiple options. Here we can go and say, go and, for example, if you wanted to create a list of inactive users, in this case, the users who haven't signed in the last 10 days or 30 days or whatever you configure, you can go and create a list by just adding it to Google Sheet. If I show you add row, I can quickly configure this one, select this one. I've already got a Google Sheet available here. I'm going to select that. Let me select the folder. This is the file I'm interested in. Sheet name. And has headers, load headers. And now I can start mapping the values. Product ID comes from here. Product name. You can get information from the other action if required, but in my case, I'm just sticking with those ones. Now, actually, while we're here, let me give it a name, license review. I'm gonna say, let's do a test run actually, now that we are at this stage, and see if it works. I'm gonna go and click on this button and say, start a new instance. What it's going to do is going to put the Zenphi in the test and debug mode. So it's going to do a test run. As you can see, we can see the live progress of the actions on the left-hand side. So it's going and see if the user has had any successful. It loops through all the users, and I think it has already added a row. So there's another. So we've had 2 users so far who haven't had any successful logins in the last 10 days, I guess we configure. Wait for the flow to finish. Let's see if there's any more users. No, just 2 users. So now that we've added all these inactive users to a Google Sheet, we can use other Zenphi's powerful functionalities to make decisions. You can use assign task action or request data action to send this to Google Sheet for review and ask the users or the person reviewing it to mark the ones which need to be deleted or revoked, yes, and then automatically do it here. So Zenphi's power is literally at your disposal here. But what I want to show you, you can also do other actions directly here. For example, if you wanted to go and revoke the user's license, if the user has been inactive, you can use a revoke license action here, start configuring it. It's pretty straightforward. It goes and revokes a specified license. Now, just a reminder, a revoke license action will fail if your account has got auto license assignment. So you can do this, which is pretty straightforward, or you can go and suspend the user if you wanted to. Suspend the user, you can do this, and at the same time, you can also archive the user. So what it does, this one, if you mark archive as yes, suspend as yes as well, and configure the rest of the actions, this one assigns an archive user license to this account. Also, what you can do is you can go ahead and delete a user account as well. I'll show you delete account and in another flow. Let me create another flow basically as part of, I'll call it offboarding flow, because I want to show you the HTTP trigger as well. I'm going to create a new flow here. This one is, say, if you've got contractors being offboarded from your company or an employee being offboarded from your company. So you want to also offboard them from your Google Workspace and potentially from the other SaaS system that you're using. The good news is that with Zenphi, you can do it. Zenphi has got integration with out of the box with many providers, but let's say you've got a custom system which Zenphi does not have an integration with. So you use the HTTP webhook, and it's quite easy to work with. So in our case, the scenario is that there's the HR system, which once a user is called marked as terminated or offboarded, it's gonna have to call Zenphi so that we can offboard it from Google Workspace and potentially other systems as well, like Slack or any other system that we may have. And now for this one, the good news is that Zenphi has got a very powerful action called convert JSON to object, which enables you to parse the data, which is coming from the source system, and convert it to a very easy to use object. Here I'm going to go and say, go and get the HTTP body of the request and use this schema to convert it to an object. Now, you don't have to create the schema, or if you have it, you just put it here. If you don't, you just go and give it a sample. I've got a sample here. I've already prepared one. I'm going to copy this sample, saying that this is a sample JSON payload which comes here, insert the schema from there, and press save and close. If I look at the output of this one, you see I get all those information. It's really easy to use. So no more do you have to work your way around JSON path, JSON query, and all those things. At this stage, I'm just going to go and publish the flow to get the URL. And so now that I've got the email address of the person who needs to be offboarded, again, here I can do multiple things. I can go and directly say, let me show you from here so you can see the rest of the actions as well. Google directory. I can go and say delete user directly. I mean, it's a bit harsh, but why not? If that's something you want to do, you can definitely do it. You can go and say, you know what, go and delete this user from Google directory. So it's gonna delete the user and release the license. I guess after 20 days or so, Google releases the license and revokes all the data. That's something you could do. But also, normally when you want to delete user, before that, you want to export user data. So the same way, when from the UI, you delete transfer user data. You can definitely export them, but you can also transfer user data. This is the same way, on the UI, when you want to delete a user, you ask if you want to transfer the data. It's the same thing. It says whose user you want to transfer. I say transfer this user. For example, I say it@demo.zenphi.com, and it's asking you which one of these data you want to transfer. Similar functionality that you've got in the UI, but you can automate it here and put it on autopilot. You can do that and then transfer it. Of course, again, before deleting the user, you can go and get approval. So if I add an assigned task here, so get someone's approval, you can configure the task. So you can definitely review it as well. And also you can, as I've shown you, you can suspend the user's accounts using suspend user action, using this action. You can do that. As part of offboarding, you may not want to delete the user account. You may just want to update user's password and recovery email. You can definitely do that. If I drag and drop this here, if I show you here, I'm going to go and say, you know what, this user, the fields I want to update is password and recovery email, so the user cannot reset password. Actually, let's do a test run of this one. I'm going to delete this and delete this action. Here, I need generate password action. You can configure it as per your company's policy. I'm going to go and say use that password, and the recovery email address again, I'm going to say set it to admin@demo.zenphi.com. Let me publish this and let's do a test run actually. So I'm going to go here, get the invocation, this URL, which includes authorization token. Going back here, I'm using Postman to mimic the source system. This could be your HR, finance, other system. And I'm doing a post and I'm passing this user there. So I want to update the password and the recovery email for this user. If I press send, so 200, that send has come through. Now let's go back here. If I go to directory, users, and if I go to, this is the one we wanted to update. So your recovery email has already been updated, as you can see. It's gone to admin@demo.zenphi.com. So this all of this is at your disposal. And this was an offboarding. And then again, I wanted to highlight that you can go and offboard users from your Jira or Asana, other system that you might have given user access to quite easily. The other one that we quickly look at is the onboarding scenario. We've had quite a videos around onboarding. We've got an out-of-the-box template available here. So I'll walk you through the template. And then again, this onboarding is initiated by Google Form, by Zenphi Form, but can be initiated, as I mentioned, from your Jira Service Desk, Ticket, your Google Form, or any other systems, basically. So here we're going to be doing, when a request coming in, you're generating password, we're using the create user action. So we go and populate all those information, the password, the org unit, secondary email address, manager email, and everything. If the user has indicated that the user needs to be added to certain groups, so we go and add the user to certain groups. We're doing an extra work here. We're also updating the user signature because we've got these other actions to centrally manage user's signature. If you need to create a shared label, etc., or a filter, you can do it all here. We're using Google Docs as a template for an email signature, or can be any HTML. So any HTML content, we're updating the user signature and do it there. But we can take it further. We can go and say, if the user has requested to add an alias to the primary email address, we can definitely do that. Or if you need to add user to another system, let's say Slack or Jira, whichever ones that you're using, you definitely can use it. So with that, doing all those things, just a reminder, you can loop in human when required, whether it's IT, whether it's users manager, whether it's finance or HR, you can definitely do it. You can generate contracts or documents along the way if required. Also, the focus of this webinar was around managing Google Workspace user admin activities. But then just a reminder, you've got a ton of other functionalities in Zenphi, which you can use as part of this process, whether it's generating contracts, whether it's managing PDFs, sending something for e-signature, adding something to calendar, etc. Just one last thing I want to highlight, and then we'll be done with the demo, and it's the fact that once you automate these processes, the natural evolution of it is that you start asking questions: how many requests I've received and how people are performing. That's where something like Zenphi table comes handy. It's built into Zenphi. I'm going to show you in context of another space that we've got information available there. So if I go here into this table, it's built into Zenphi. You can easily emit out the important information from your process into this table. This is a built-in like a Google Sheet-like database is quite powerful, and it's a proper database. And once you've got the data there, you can easily create pages like this, dashboards like this, to get insights into your process. So answer questions, for example, how long does it take for the managers to normally approve a request, or IT to approve a request if they're falling within the SLA, or you want to get an idea where everything is at. So you can definitely do this thing. And you can also embed your Google form or other form or Zenphi form in here, so people can come here and directly initiate the process. So this concludes our demo, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Fahid, for this great demonstration. I hope you guys have now a better idea of how easily you can automate everything related to users as a Google Workspace administrator. And as you could see, it's possible to literally automate a whole process within an hour or even less. And yes, as we open our Q&A session, please feel free to drop your questions. And let me actually check if we have anything there already. And yes, so the first question, do you provide personal consultation? Our situation is unique.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our focus is to making sure you're successful. And we appreciate sometimes, you don't have the bandwidth or skill sets to focus on to like Zenphi. So we definitely can help you with automating your processes end to end, whether directly to Zenphi or to our extended partner network. So for that, please reach out to us, book a demo with us, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll send you a link to book a personal demo in a minute. So please feel free to use that. And yeah, we'll be super happy to meet with you personally. Okay, let me see if we have anything else in the chat. Okay, so we also get quite a lot of questions about how Zenphi's pricing works. So could you please talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. So like everything else in Zenphi, one of the objectives that we've always had is to make everything easy and to get started with, to use. So pricing is not an exception there. So for Zenphi, we've got 3 different tiers of pricings that you can get started with. If you're getting started with IT, Google Workspace admin automation functionality, you get started with our professional tier. It's not doesn't have any limit on the number of users who can be involved, whether in the designing or interacting with your process. So it's a good entry point for you, and you can achieve a lot with our professional edition. And from there, you can scale up by either buying flow packs add-on, as in based on the number of processes you automate, or move to the next tier of our enterprise tier, which gives you whole lot of functionalities to deploy Zenphi across your organizations. With the enterprise edition, you get like central management. You can manage workspace centrally as an IT admin, while enabling other departments like HR, finance, or other sales to automate their own processes. So really easy to get started with. Our professional edition is if you head to our zenphi.com/pricing, you can see all the details there. But in summary, yeah, the pricing is based on the number of processes you automate. You don't have limitation number of users who directly and indirectly get involved in your process.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Fahid. And I'll send you a link to our pricing page as well in the chat. Okay, I see some questions in the chat. However, our webinar time is coming to an end, but no worries. If your question wasn't answered, we'll get back to you through email. And again, please feel free to book a personal demo session for you and your team. It's absolutely obligation free. So on that note, I guess we can finish our webinar. Thank you very much, Wahid, for joining us today and yeah, sharing your knowledge.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for giving me the opportunity to present Zenphi, and yeah, happy automating.